Etienne Tshisekedi's political career spanned decades. He was an advocate for democracy and an opponent of several successive Congolese leaders. Tshisekedi served as a minister under Mobutu Sese Seko, who ruled for more than 3 decades. In 1982, he founded the Union for Democracy and Social Progress, the country's first organised opposition platform. Tshisekedi was named Prime Minister 4 times under Mobutu, but never lasted more than a few months. Eventually, Mobutu was overthrown. Tshisekedi went on to become the main civilian opponent of Laurent Kabila, who took power in 1997, and then his son, President Joseph Kabila, who's ruled the DRC since 2001. He finished runner-up to Kabila in the 2011 presidential elections, which international observers said was marred by fraud. Supporters still refer to him as the elected president. Tshisekedi returned to the DRC in July to a hero's welcome after spending 2 years in Belgium for medical treatment. He was set to take a top post in a transitional council agreed in December. The deal would pave the way for Kabila to leave power in 2017 and not run for a third term. Tshisekedi's death leaves the opposition without a figurehead, as talks over the implementation of the accord falter. His son Felix is tipped to be named Prime Minister in the power-sharing government. Clementine, Logan, CGTN.
And we can get more on that story now. I'm joined on the line by journalist William Close. He's joining me in Kinshasa for more details. William, what's been the reaction to Tshisekedi's death there in the DRC?
Well, there's been a very deep and very heartfelt reaction. The death of Etienne Tshisekedi represents the departure from the scene of the man who has been the mainstay and preeminent figure of the Congolese opposition since 1980. So the population of the DRC is reacting today to the loss of a hugely important figure. He commanded a passionate personal loyalty and a capacity to mobilize supporters, especially here in Kinshasa and in his home region in central Congo, which is simply unmatched by any other politician. So many Congolese are feeling bereaved today. The sorrow is palpable. Indeed, last night, as news of his death in hospital in Belgium filtered back into Kinshasa, supporters tried to gather before his home, but they were dispersed by police firing tear gas. Although it's a huge shock to the people of the DRC, it's not entirely a surprise. He was 84 years old. He's long been in poor health, and he spent 2 previous long absences in Brussels for undisclosed medical reasons. But when he returned suddenly to Belgium last week, rumors began to circulate that he was very unwell. And despite the assurances of his party that it was just a routine medical checkup, it's turned out that the population was justified in its concern.
Right, William Close, who's joining us there on the line from Kinshasa. Now let's move to Brussels, where Etienne Tshisekedi passed on, and I'm joined from there by our correspondent Kevin Ozebek. Kevin, first off, what arrangements are being made, though, when it comes to returning Mr. Tshisekedi's body to the DRC? Do we know at this point?
No, at this point, we don't know when that body will be removed from Brussels and brought down to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Also, we still don't have many answers when it comes to the cause of death. The only thing we know from his fellow opposition members is that he returned to Brussels last week for this so-called routine medical check. But obviously, there was something more than just routine that was going on with his health. And whatever problems he was facing, he wasn't over to overcome them. But because he has spent long stints here, because of some health issues, also because of the fact that the DRC is a former Belgian colony, and also because of the fact of the very close and tight ties between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the EU. Tshisekedi was a very well-known figure in the political circles here. He was very well-liked, viewed as a leader of democracy in the DRC, as a very strong and noble opposition figure. So his news, the news of his death definitely on the minds of many up here in Belgium as well.
So, Kevin, how is the European Union reacting or following these developments? How concerned is the European Union over a political fallout in the DRC after Tshisekedi's death?
Well, what's known as the EU External Action Service, which is somewhat equivalent to the U.S. State Department, it's the arm that really deals with foreign affairs, did release a statement about his death that says the EU expresses sincere condolences both to Tshisekedi's family as well as all of the Congolese people. Now, that statement went on to say that Tshisekedi was a man committed to the future of his country and its citizens. And then it went on, the statement, to mention that transitional council deal that was negotiated just over a month and a half ago, so at the very end of last year. And this EU statement, the EU is calling on all citizens and political actors to honor that deal that, as you mentioned, would eventually pave the way for Joseph Kabila to leave the presidency. So in this statement, the EU isn't saying it's concerned about what could happen, but clearly the EU is closely watching what will be happening in the coming days, weeks, and months.
Kevin Ozebek for us there in Brussels, and we're keeping a close eye on the developments out of the DRC following the death there of top politician Etienne Tshisekedi. Well, let's get you more perspective on that story now. I'm joined in our Nairobi studios by Professor Macharia Munene. He's a political analyst. Professor, thank you. And of course, this is a significant development for the DRC, particularly given the fact that they've already had some political fallout following President Kabila's insistence on staying in government. So exactly what does this mean for the political situation inside the DRC and particularly for President Joseph Kabila?
Well, for the people inside the DRC, first of all, they've lost a father figure because Tshisekedi acquired this image of being the perpetual opposition leader from the time of Mobutu through Kabila, the two Kabilas. He's acquired that image. Now, what might happen is that the various opposition groups, their leaders will start now jostling for positions as to who takes on the image of being the leader of the opposition. Tshisekedi has a son, Felix. He might also try to show that he can be there. As for Kabila, he will be watching the development. He made a commitment recently that he will be out by 2017. So the expectation is that he will honor that, because it was not so much a commitment to Tshisekedi, it was a commitment to the Congolese people and to the international community, particularly the churches that helped to broker the peace. So there will be kind of a reassessment, each person trying to figure out how he fits into the new picture without Tshisekedi. So
let's look at the opposition parties themselves and what this means for them, because as you mentioned there's likely to be a lot more jostling for power now, and particularly since Tshisekedi, according to you, has quite a prominent son there. Will the opposition, though, likely have a stronger chance now in the December elections if they are scheduled for them?
Well, they will have a chance if they can agree on who to field. But if Kabila is not a candidate, because that's the issue. If he's not a candidate, the question is which of these other guys are likely to feature prominently. It is also possible that the Kabila party might field a different person who will sweep the board because of the prominence of his party. So it is not a given that a member of the opposition would win the election just simply because Kabila is not there. Kabila may not be there, but somebody in the Kabila's party might win in the election. So all these things are dynamics that are yet to be seen and actually to be observed very closely, because they can mean one thing or the other.
All right, Professor Macharia Munene, thank you very much for your insights on the DRC.